Recording in progress.
Okay. About a year ago, I used to tell people that, I love all beings, but I have a lot of trouble with people one on one. And and I decided about a year ago that I wanted to strengthen my compassion. And a lot of teachers and a lot of books say that practicing Tonglen is a good way to work on one's own compassion. And so I started a daily Tonglen practice. And it wasn't long after that, within the next month or two, Nance Tovar's father, Joe, went through one of his difficult periods, and I offered to begin a daily Tonglen practice for Joe, which I started then. And as I was doing that, and in other ways, I think I have been, strengthening my compassion and loving kindness, my inherent compassion and loving kindness. But it wasn't long after that when I went like, "Cowabunga, dude! You're practicing Tonglen for Joe, who has one form of dementia, and your niece's husband, Dave, also has dementia. He's got early onset dementia, a different form. And Linda, my niece Linda, is the closest relative I have from my family of origin. I was very, very close with again, I'm not close with a lot of people in my family of origin, and many of them have died, of course. But and my sister and brother were much older than me. But Marilyn, Linda's mother, Marilyn, was the one in the family that I was closest with, and now it's Linda. She and I share a lot, and Dave, her husband Dave, it was like the sweetest, kindest, gentlest man, and who would kind of do whatever Linda asked, And he helped, well, he was a father to her two children. And they consider him dad. He considers them his sons. He had a previous family that he was not on good terms with, and it's hard to understand because the man is just so peaceful, kind, loving, generous. But anyway, so he had been in Linda's life for, I don't know, 25 years or so. And around 2015, 10 years ago, roughly 10 years ago, he started to show little signs of dementia. And it became so, it was about, they own a house just in Bartlett, Tennessee, which is just outside of Memphis. And about 2 years ago, she could no longer take care. He got violent sometimes, and he could no longer take care of. She could no longer take care of him, and he had been in a place that offered daycare for a couple of years. But it was about 2 years ago he went into a very nice, the nicest one of these I have ever seen, but a very nice, I don't know what to
care. Memory care.
Okay, memory care center. Maybe that's a good, yeah, okay, memory care center. Um, and and he's been and well, okay, I should also say two other things about both Joe and Dave. Joe was 96 and a half when I started saying Tonglen for him, and he's now turned 97. And when you see pictures of, and I asked for pictures to help me do Tonglen, and he looks content, spiritual, at one with the world. And Nance says his goal is to live to 100. And he's been in hospice care for a year and a half, but Nance takes care, and other family members take care of him at home. Dave, on the other hand, really, as the disease came on him, he made it very clear he didn't want to live beyond where his mind was working. When he did start to decline more severely, he would make this motion and ask Linda to kill him. He did not want to live, and you could see that on him. He did not want to continue that way. So in my Tonglen, which I did daily, and I have to admit, it eventually became what Lama Surya considers daily-ish. But as I did Tonglen for them daily or daily-ish, I mean, I'm for Joe, I'm inhaling his sickness, his pain, his suffering, and exhaling to him my composure, my love, my, and maybe that's it, composure, love. With Dave, I'm inhaling from him anything he's got that might be stopping him from letting go and passing on. And eventually, within the last month or two, I began to realize that what he might be hanging on for, or not for, but what may be residual in him, the karma that he needs to let go of, is the anger about his previous family. And I began to inhale his anger and exhale, again, love, composure. Also, I've done a lot of study and research into death and dying from a Buddhist perspective. And now I forget where I was going with that, which is a little of my own cognitive issues. But
so you were inhaling Dave's anger and exhaling what?
Love, composure. Oh, and right. That gives me back the connection I was looking for. I realized that one of the things that someone needs to pass on is an understanding that they have done good. They've completed a mission. They've done hard work, and they can rest now. They've done it. They can just let go and rest and appreciate what they've done. I mean, here's a man who helped Linda enormously, raised two sons. They're both, I guess one's late 20s, one early 30s, something like that. The older one is a pediatric oncologist in Pittsburgh. And the younger one actually just got a position with a think tank, with a think tank.
Consulting firm?
What's that?
Consulting firm?
Yeah, with a consulting firm. And so as time has gone on, as Linda has described it to me, Dave was uncommunicative, didn't know who was around him, who wasn't around him, and she began to feel more comfortable being away from him for periods of time. And then it turned out that her son in Pittsburgh and his partner had a baby, and she ended up renting a place up in Pittsburgh so she can care. Well, they both work in hospitals, him in pediatric oncology, her in the emergency room. So, they both get on-call calls, and so she's just like, she spends most of her time just 5 blocks away from them, able to help them. And she, comes back for occasional weekends or whatever to see Dave when his and his partner's schedule permits. And then, I don't know, maybe it was a month, just not that long ago, a month, 6 weeks ago, I started to think, what if I could go and spend a day or two at Dave's bedside so I can do Tonglen and other things I've been doing for him, chants and, so I could sit with him and do it more, less long distance, more directly. I mean, he and I got along wonderfully, I think he was very comfortable with me. I don't think he'd be at all bothered to have me around chanting and doing whatever I'm doing. And so I called Linda and I said, I you're going to think I'm crazy when I say this, but I'd like to come down. Oh, I should say about Linda that she says I'm the only person she's comfortable with talking about welcoming his death. And I said, anyway, I said, so I can sit with him and maybe ease his path out, hopefully. And she said, I don't think you're crazy. That would be wonderful. And we started to work on a time, and because it has to coincide with times where her son and his partner
don't need her to
don't need her to be there. She said I could go down on my own and she would arrange it with the staff, but obviously it would be better if we could do it at the same time. And we talked about Mother's Day weekend, but we already have plans for Mother's Day weekend with our son Carl, and we talked about Memorial Day, and I said, well, and she said, well, okay, and she talked to her son and said, well, okay, let's do it the weekend of May 5th. So it was a totally arbitrary date, chosen for no other reason than we could both make it, and it fit with her son's schedule. And we both started out Friday morning, intending for her to meet me at the airport later. She would have rented a car, pick me up, and we go, spend Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday with Dave, and we both fly home early Monday morning. But, and as I was arriving at the airport and she was on the walkway leading into the plane, she gets a call from the memory care facility that Dave's
blood oxygen.
you don't have to jump that quick. So Dave's blood oxygen level has taken a significant dip. And she said, well, I'm just getting on the plane to come anyway. We'll talk later. And she went on, and she texted me, and then I had one of those crazy days where I'm stuck in. I was supposed to change planes in Houston, and Houston, of course, had all those thunderstorms. So I had to spend the night in Houston in a hotel and get on the plane the next day. But it worked out. She was able to see Dave a little bit, and then she picked me up, and we went together to sit with Dave. And Dave was not able, it didn't seem to be able to control anything about him. He had stopped eating and drinking. He turned down any food or liquid. He didn't seem to be, there were times you thought, well, maybe he's trying to say something, but it wasn't clear. It was like maybe a spasm of the mouth or something. And when I would talk to him, and similarly with Linda, when I would talk to him, there'd be some reaction of some sort. And when one of us would touch him, there'd be a reaction of some sort. But nothing that you could really actually, the only thing that did appear to be a reaction I could label, and this is really wild from a Buddhist perspective, but when I told him that his consciousness will never die, there was like a startle, what seemed to me to be like a startle reflex. Consciousness doesn't die. The next morning, Sunday morning, so I spent 4 hours or so with him and Linda, and then, whatever. Sunday morning, I was the technical host for the town hall, and I had not canceled that. I mean, I didn't know he was. When I was doing all that, Tonglin, in my fantasy world, or what I thought was my fantasy world, I thought that I would end up sitting next to him as he dies, and meditating and chanting and doing Tonglin and helping ease his path. But to me, it was just a fantasy. I thought, what the hell are the chances? This guy's been dying for a year and a half, Anyway, so I didn't know it was really going to be the weekend, but I explained to Menla when we started. I logged on. I had taken my laptop and logged on from Memphis, and explained to Menla that if I got a text from Linda that his death rattle had started or something like that, I would kind of leave early and she'd finish up, which of course is fine with her. And exactly at the end of town hall, just as we ended town hall, I got the text from Linda that his death rattle had started. And I quickly, there was an Uber about 4 minutes away that got me to the memory care facility in like another 5 minutes. And when I got there, there was no responsiveness at all. But by the way, what I was doing when I was there was Tonglin, meditating with him, and a lot of chanting. And he, on Saturday seemed to respond to my voice in the chanting. Sunday, there was no response at all to anything. And let's see, that would have been about 12:30 p.m., 1 p.m. Memphis time, Sunday. And the staff there all thought, he would go within hours. And we sat with him. The hospice nurse happened to arrive just as his breathing was beginning to become irregular with gaps of no breath. And while she was still there, he stopped breathing. His ventricular continued to palpate for a while, so he wasn't legally dead. But a minute later, she used the stethoscope again, and he was legally dead at 3:46 Sunday afternoon. So what had been this wild and unbelievable, I didn't think it would really happen that way, happened as it's funny to say hoped, but yeah, hoped it would, that I could be there, and maybe I played a role in helping clear his path. And so later I'll allow some room for people who want to ask questions or have any feedback, and we may go a little bit long, and I will stop recording in a minute, and we will begin with the path clearing chant for Dave Jackson to clear his path in the Bardos or whatever form of transition he's in, and for Joe Tovar to continue living happily in the present moment in his life, or for anybody you care to do the path clearing for. Just give me a minute to stop the recording.